Okay, so I got some walls up and I got some roof up, and this is another stone house update. So this is outside the stone house, and these are some of the rocks. This is a window here. So you can see the insulation behind the window there, and then it goes all the way up to the rafter tails that stick out. Those rafter tails are sitting, these like roof rafters here are sitting on top of another 2x8 right there. So maybe I can get a little higher. You can see that. So you can see that other 2x8 comes down and then sits on the wall plate, and then this roof rafter that's longer comes out further for the overhang over the stone. So this about 4 foot board overhang here past the plate is just an overhang, but it sits on top of the wall plate there. But since I was here, I cut birds' mouths in the bottom of them as they went up, and then we bricked up underneath of them from the stone wall for stability. And then the stone wall finishes up the rest of the way to the roof here, and the entire thing is boxed out and in dense glass and then fire caulked. Let me see if you can see that here. So yeah, so it's fire caulked and boxed out in dense glass, and then the bricks run up underneath of these. If you go up top and hit these with a hammer, they are like hitting steel. It's really great. So we have anchors that come down and tie onto these existing bolts that survive the fire, and they come with tension ties on the side of the rafter here. There's a tension tie on the other side of that rafter there, and that bolt comes down and then ties onto that steel, which is embedded in the stone wall and tied onto anchor points. So, and then this entire thing gets filled up with stone underneath the dense glass. So, hopefully the furthest an ember would travel would actually be to this junction here, at the face of the stone. And then there's a steel plate that's on top of gypsum on top of this, and the entire thing is boxed out in gypsum and fire caulk, and a tile roof. So it should be pretty stable. A lot of the internal fire caulking seems unnecessary at this point because you're outside, or you're inside of the stone wall. But if you really think of the stone wall like a stone facade, you would have these kind of details on the outside of your structure anyway. It just seems crazy because we're actually having to build it backwards, like from the inside out. And so squeezing all these details in is really hard. You can see some insulation up there. It really fills in that cavity. We're also insulating these rafter tails. The attic, of course, but all the way out with mineral wool all the way out to this barge rafter, and that's because I don't want an air cavity, so if a fire did start in the overhang, it wouldn't propagate fast, because the cavity would be filled with mineral wool, which would stifle it. So you can see more brickwork up here underneath. Oh, there's some tension ties. So the tension ties are attached to the rafter tails, and they're tying down into this stonework and this concrete cap. Places like this where we don't have bolts out in this location, we're gonna drill down and then add our own chemical adhesive and rebar into those, and then tie them up to those tension ties. So it'll be really tied to the stone wall, which is pretty great. Another insulation detail here. Uh, it it gets to fill in quite a bit. This ledge here is for a window lintel. So the lintel slots in on top of the block to hold up like 3 courses of stone above the window, and then that'll have insulation behind it. Again, these details are kind of hard to line up. You can see down there the box out of the entire corner. So that is the insulation cavity at the top of the wall right there, which is pretty cool. So we have square cut rafters, and square cut rafters are really great until you get to the corner. This corner here, these are really hard to cut, and I'm not going to get into why they're really hard to cut, but the angle that you cut them is not 45 degrees because it's affected by this angle. So it's a complicated compound cut, unlike a regular compound cut, which isn't complicated. Yeah, so I'm getting more bricks up underneath of that rafter tail there, and then more roof on this side. It's a hip all the way around, which is nice. It's very pretty. And yeah, so we're back to the front. You can see these ledger, these little bird's mouths here. They're all going to have support underneath of them. Everyone's a little different because of the way the stones are. I'm just trying to connect to the stones where they are. I'm not trying to go out and make the stones do what I want them to do. So there's a window there. Let's see if we can get inside here. So this is the door. That's nice. So I got an insulated corner there, which is nice. So you can see the double rafters real good here. So that's going to allow us to have about 15 or so, 15 and a half inches of insulation in the rafters there. And we're gonna put the interior sheathing on top of the bottom of those rafters, so we're not gonna have an attic to fill or anything. But every one of these headers here on the outside of it is another 9 or 10 inches of insulation. So that means that those headers won't be cold points on a wall like you'd have on a regular structure. So that's really a nice detail. So we've got some anchors going in here and some anchors going in here all the way down. They're littered in there. And then we're doing steel here for uplift to keep the plate attached to the stud, which is attached to the tension tie at the bottom. And then these steel are attaching the ceiling rafter to the plate, and then we still have to add an attachment to attach the roof rafter to the ceiling rafter, and then we're adding a 3/4 inch deck on this building, and that 3/4 inch deck is going to be nailed down with 3-inch ring shank nails, hot dip galvanized. So hopefully it'll stay on. We get hurricane force winds here in the winter time like once a week. So the details about hold downs and keeping your roofing attached and keeping your sheathing attached are really important. So we're doing a 5-inch nail pattern. So 5 inches on every rafter all the way up. 3-inch nails. I think we could go, the standard is 6 inches nail pattern. which is the goal. But I'm going to tell the people who are doing the nailing with us 5 inches so that I make sure I have 6 inches. And that's to keep the sheathing attached. And then the sheathing fasteners are getting detailed, as well as the seams with Proseco Flash. And then we're going to put a tape on all the seams and roll it in good. So it's going to be a traditional plywood deck with 5/8 gypsum on top of it, except it's going to be a 3/4 inch deck. And we're going to detail all the seams because if your roof does blow off, if you could at least have your seams and your fasteners detailed, you'll keep the bulk water out. I know this is not a hurricane territory here, but I grew up in hurricane territory, so I'm kind of pulling some of that stuff forward. So, yeah, so that's the stone house. It's coming together, and we're going to have collar ties right underneath of that ridge right there. And 2x4 collar ties all the way down. And yeah, so that's fun. Anyway, I hope this is entertaining. Thanks. Bye.